Church of Hope near the university campus. And then the election started happening, and they started asking these questions, and people started saying, we think you should be the bishop, and I think we just let the Holy Spirit do the thing.
That is how it goes.
And then as I've become in the office, so then I'm elected, and I have to say goodbye to a congregation and hello to a new position. And then as I've been in the office, I'm feeling more and more clearly like, oh, right now, this is what I'm called to. And that's also how it goes. And that's what I'm grateful for. I'm always grateful when the Spirit says, yep, this is what you need to do right now. And that's what's before me. So I feel very called to it. And yet the transition, it was a very strong election, and it was a very hard transition, because who wants to leave people that you love? That's really hard to do. And now I love more people, and that is also good.
And you also have a family.
I have a family.
Growing family, a child in high school, a child in
middle school.
Yep. You're married.
Yeah.
Your wife is a clergy person in the
United Church of
yeah.
Christ.
Okay.
And she's been in her congregation for 16 years, something like that. And her congregation is also near the University of Minnesota. And so it was actually really fun to be able to be pastors in kind of neighboring congregations and doing a lot of things with our ecumenical neighbor partners. So we don't get to do those kind of things, but now I get to do other things. So, yeah.
So what does a bishop do?
What does a bishop do? That is a good question. Can I tell you about the synod first?
Tell me about the synod.
Because that'll help understand what does the bishop do, right? So, and some of you have heard me share this before, but I think it's helpful to kind of get the concept of the synod. So Minneapolis area synod, not just Minneapolis proper, but the whole area, you are part of that. 137 worshiping communities on the western side of the metro go north up to Bram and Isanti, and out to the west to Watertown and Rockford and Buffalo, that area, and down to the south to Norwood Young America, that's still kind of west, getting southwest, and then Henderson, Belle Plaine on the south side, New Prague on the south side of the synod, and the city of Minneapolis proper. So that's the ELCA in this area of the country. 65 synods of the ELCA. We are one of those synods. We happen to be a pretty dense synod because we have a lot of Lutherans around here. So that's the area we're talking about. And the bishop is if you will, a leader of this area. So a leader of the ELCA on the western side of the Twin Cities. I work with congregations and I work with the staff. And so the staff, the synod staff, out and about in the synod all over the place. You probably see John Holden and some of the others around over the time. But we work with congregations. You see us especially during times of transition, sometimes during times of conflict. You see us when you have a new pastor who's a candidate and then maybe is preparing for ministry and then is ordained into ministry, or somebody who's installed. Those are the kinds of transitional times you see us the most. But I spend most of my days having conversations with lay leaders and pastors and deacons of our church, working with different people, helping the church move together. I think a lot about healthy congregations and healthy leaders. And what do I want more than anything? I want healthy congregations. So I want Advent to be the healthiest congregation you can possibly be. And I think that one of the best ways to be healthy congregations is to have healthy leaders. Leaders who have good boundaries and are able to do the good work of ministry. I think that's really important to be able to be a healthy congregation, healthy churches. So I think about that a lot of the time. So that's what I think about inside the congregation. But I also think I'm also kind of external facing. So I speak publicly, I speak nationally, I speak locally about what's going on, for instance, in Minneapolis Area Synod, even in this kind of a time. So I have a voice that does that, and I interact with our ecumenical partners. So the Episcopal Bishop of the Church in Minnesota, or the leaders of other denominations, or even interfaith leaders. I do more of that. Does that help?
It's really helpful, and I think it would be helpful for you to know that one of the ways she's been incredibly supportive of pastors. You have said from the beginning, here's my cell phone number, you can text, you can call. And when you first did that, I thought, well, how long is she going to be able to keep this up? But you have been phenomenal with that, and yeah. I have felt very supported the whole time, and particularly right now.
Good.
We're going to transition into what's happening in Minneapolis right now, but from the beginning, you have been very good at reaching out to us as we are trying to lead through Operation Metro Surge. In particular, the night Alex Preddy
Yes.
was killed. And
Yes.
that January 23rd had been a huge day for congregations.
It was
It's
a
been
Saturday?
Yes,
Yes.
and I was finishing up my sermon.
thinking about
and we had the
Sunday?
annual meeting the next day, and I was going to do my devotion, and then
Yes.
no, I'm not.
Right.
And so now I'm off at a demonstration in Maple Grove, and my thought was, can I just get my toes warm before I go to the next thing? And then a vigil, and this is what we were all doing.
Yep.
And then you're collapsing at 8 o'clock, and you're got to get up early in the morning, and here comes this email from you,
Yeah.
saying if you've got to preach tomorrow,
Yep.
and I just appreciated it so much.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we did. We all had to get up and do
Yep.
something really hard the next morning, and you
Yep.
were there for us.
Good. And I was there because some of our pastors and leaders said, Bishop, we need a word. We need a word. And I don't tell people what to say. You guys figure this out. I mean, we're not that kind of church. We're not the Catholics. We're not the Episcopalians. But I want to support people in figuring out how do we do this in different ways. So I'll give people some ideas. I'll tell you what's on my mind and on my heart and what the Spirit's giving me, and you figure out how that matches what the Spirit's giving you, and then we'll move together.
But you'd been going on the 23rd. You'd been to vigils. You'd been
yeah.
out there.
Yep.
And so this moment that we're having, I will say, I have never been more proud of the church. I have never been more proud of this congregation.
Yes.
I have never been more proud of my colleagues. We are rising to the moment. Can you tell us, whatever you're comfortable sharing, what we're doing and how you're seeing us be the salt and the light? Because I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. What I think I see is churches all doing it in different ways. Many are doing similar things, but every church is needing to figure this out in different ways because every church is in its own neighborhood, has its own things going on, your own dynamics within the congregation, your own dynamics with your neighbors, and trying to figure out how do we do that. So I'm seeing congregations, so let's think of these 137 congregations. Some of them have significant immigrant communities within the congregation. Some of them are immigrant congregations. That means that they're very vulnerable as a community, as a congregation. And so I'm thinking about how they're operating, and then I'm thinking about how other congregations are coming alongside some of those congregations, working together, walking together. Sometimes congregations, I don't know everything your congregation is doing, but I would imagine many congregations are supporting local elementary schools or middle schools or high schools. Some people are gathering food, all of those kinds of things. And I'm seeing that across our synod. People figuring out how to help with rental assistance, how to support with food, how to do pastoral care, how to, in some cases, if the congregation members are in hiding, and there are some of our congregations where many of the people are in hiding, they are going out to visit those people and interacting with their people, bringing Holy Communion. Because, I mean, when you're in a time of crisis like this, what do you want from your pastors? What do you want from your deacons and your leaders? You want the Word of God. You want to know that you're not alone. And so our leaders are all doing it differently. Our congregations are all doing it differently. But everybody's doing something. And I'm really grateful that everybody's doing something. Everybody's finding their way. And I notice that in different congregations with the different politics and such, people are finding different ways, and that's okay. That we all are finding our own ways, and we're finding the way that makes sense in the way we're called as a congregation.
One of the things that got started quite early was the Welcome Fund.
Yeah.
And as people from across the country have reached out to me, what can I support? I've pointed them to
Yes.
the Welcome Fund.
Yes.
In fact, I had a pastor colleague in Seattle who reached out, and her congregation wanted to do something. And I've put this in the adventure. I've said it to you. Not everybody knows, but they made a $2,500 contribution in Advent's name to the Welcome Fund.
Nice. Really, really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So tell us about the Welcome Fund.
So last year at the Synod Assembly, some folks had gathered together and they wrote a resolution. And the resolution was about immigration, and it was about a whole bunch of different elements of immigration, including making an immigration task force, making a welcome fund or a fund that would help immigrants. This is last May, so May of 25. And asking me to speak more boldly and more publicly about immigration, that kind of a thing. Rooting it in the gospel, rooting it in our social statements, so very grounded, but asking the synod and me to do that kind of work. So then fast forward to now, we have an immigration task force, and we've created a fund, and we're like, oh, okay. The mandate of the synod was to do the things that we're doing right now. So this welcome fund is, people can donate to it, and there's a pretty brief application that congregations and these ministries, any congregation, any ministry that's doing a lot of work with immigrants can request up to $5,000 at a time and fill out the little application, and then the immigration task force looks at the applications, the executive committee approves it, we've got a process, and we send the check to that congregation to do the ministry that they're ready to do. So let's think of a congregation that is feeding a lot of people and needs to have extra food to be able to feed those people, or a congregation that is getting a lot of questions about rental assistance and people are going to lose their housing completely if this congregation isn't able to support them. So they apply, they receive that money, and the church is helping in that way. Mutual aid in all different ways. So that's how the Welcome Fund is used. And the money has come very generously, and it's being used very quickly. So I've been glad for the ways that it's been publicized. And if anything, my worry is I want to make sure that we have enough in there so that when the next requests come, we're able to meet those requests.
Yeah. How quickly is that turnaround from requests to, because if you need rental assistance and you've got to get through an application process.
So if a church applies on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, usually the Immigration Task Force looks at it on Thursdays, we approve it, the executive committee approves it Friday, Saturday, and the checks go out usually the next week, sometime
so within
a
a
little
week.
longer. Yeah, it's ideal if people can do electronic transfers. We can go faster that way.
Got it.
So it can go pretty quickly. And often a congregation can sort of spot itself for a little bit of time, but it can't spot itself for too long.
Yeah.
Right?
That would be us. Potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys could apply and you could also donate. So it kind of can go both ways. And I want it to be an open enough process that if people need it, they can apply for it, and others can give, and that we have sort of that porousness of being able to be givers and receivers as we need to. Because I don't know everything that's going on in every congregation. I can get a glimpse of what I think might be going on here, but I don't know all of that. And I don't know that for any congregation. But you in the seats, in the pews, in the leadership, you know what your congregation needs and you know what your neighbors need. And so this is how we respond. I felt like that resolution at the Synod Assembly gave us great ability to respond in some really powerful, bold ways. I don't know that I would have been able to be as strong in my response if the assembly hadn't voted and said, this is what we want you to do, Bishop. This is what we want us to do as a synod. I'm so grateful for that resolution. I've never seen a resolution actually be able to be enacted as much or as strongly as that particular resolution. Like, whoa, this worked.
Yeah. What other things are going on that you want us to know about? I know you sent an email out today that I am aware of.
Right, right. I want you to know about, I want you to know that there are people taking some pretty strong stands. And I also want you to know that there are other people who are saying, hold on, and that the church is not always of one mind. Your congregation might not be all of one mind, and the whole ELCA is not of one mind, and even our synod, not everybody all thinks the same, and yet I'm trying to make space for people to respond as they need to. I will say one thing that has had some press in the last couple days was we were part of a lawsuit. Minneapolis Area Synod was.
Yes.
Can I speak about that?
Yes, I wanted you to.
Okay.
This is the one about the Whipple Building and pastoral care.
Yeah. Right, so the Whipple Building is kind of down by the airport. It's the federal building where a lot of people, if they're coming into detention, that's often where they're held. Sometimes for, 5, 6, 7 hours, sometimes for a number of days. And one thing we've noticed is that people who are held at the Whipple Building are not receiving pastoral care. So if you're being held there and a pastor comes to say, can I bring Holy Communion? Can I bring prayer to folks at the Whipple Building? That's being denied. Excuse me. If you were in a normal county jail, for instance, you would be able to receive pastoral care. There's ways and a process. Usually it's a process, and it's usually a solid process, but there's a way to do it. At the Whipple Building, for some reason, they don't allow for pastoral care. And so we were invited, our synod and the United Church of Christ in Minnesota, we were invited to join a lawsuit. And the lawsuit basically said, we've been denied the ability to provide pastoral care, and that's a First Amendment right, and we think we should be able to do that, and government, can you figure out a process to be able to allow this to happen so that people can have that? So for instance, last Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, I went to the Whipple Building, I packed my communion kit, I packed my ashes, I packed my Bible, all the things I'd usually take on a pastoral visit on Ash Wednesday, and I went to the Whipple Building, hello, I'd like to, I'm the bishop, I'd like to provide pastoral care, and they said no. So that becomes the basis for a lawsuit.
Okay.
And the lawsuit, so some people have said to me, Bishop Jen, that's kind of political. It's not meant to be a political lawsuit. It's meant to be this is what our calling is lawsuit. And so when I had to write the stuff for the court, the writing I did, I included Matthew 25, when did we see you imprisoned? When did we see you hungry? When did we see you thirsty? We included the Constitution of the ELCA, where it says, what does a pastor do? They provide pastoral care. I'm supposed to do that, so that's what I'm doing. We provided our social statements, which say very clearly, whatever your stripe is with however you feel politically, providing pastoral care and caring for human beings, like humanizing people, is important. And we talked about baptismal vows that says for all of us, we are called to be people of justice and peace. And then I also included a little bit about a chunk of our ordination vows that say pastoral care and caring for people, nurturing people in the faith. So it was like such basic things.
Right.
So I want people to hear me that if you don't agree with it, I understand. But what I'm responding to, how I'm responding, is out of my understanding of the faith and my understanding of our calling and my understanding of where the Lutheran Church is at with that. We don't all have to agree, and that's fine with me. But I'm not trying to be political, I'm trying to be faithful. And I think that's what a lot of us are trying to do.
I think so too.
Isn't
Even
that
the
how we
people
shine
we
our light?
disagree with, I think, are trying to be faithful.
That
They
is so true.
understand it
Yeah.
differently. And one of the things I keep trying to say is even with people you disagree with, never lose their humanity,
Right.
never lose their dignity,
Yeah.
even if they lose yours.
Yeah, the humanity is so important. It's so, so important. And dignity, those are the
Because
words.
I think what we're being pulled to do by whomever is to just see the other person as other and wrong and needing to be shouted over.
Right.
And I just don't want to do that.
Right. I want to sit down with coffee and let's just talk about
Yeah.
it. And we might not agree at the end of the conversation, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I really believe that's where Jesus calls us to be, though, to be able to be in conversation with one another, to see another person as a person of God, an image of Jesus Christ in front of me. I have to keep going back to that, especially when it gets hard, especially right now. And it's hard. It's very hard. Neighbors don't always agree. Families don't always agree. Church members don't always agree. But I'm working hard to be able to see that humanity, even when, I gotta see the humanity. This is what God's put in front of me.
And the status of that lawsuit is?
We just filed it on Monday.
Okay.
I think it might go kind of quickly. I don't know what'll happen, but we did our part.
Okay.
That's fine. And somebody else asked me, and this was important, they said, are you using the synod's money to do that? This is a pro bono. Some lawyers said we're gonna do this thing. Would you be willing to put your names forward? Yes, we'll put our names forward. So we are not paying any synod money. It was a tiny bit of my time to do it. And to me, it's a witness of what is Jesus telling us to do. So
Right.
that's where I'm at.
Just an aside on the name of the Whipple building, you are a graduate of Concordia College, as am I, and I lived in Bishop Whipple.
I have not put that connection. I know the Episcopal side of Bishop Whipple, but I didn't think about the Concordia Bishop Whipple building.
It is the same.
Oh, I better go look at that history.
So it is the same.
Thank
so
you.
Bishop Whipple was an Episcopalian bishop, and that particular place at Concordia at one time had been an Episcopalian school that the Lutherans bought and then founded Concordia, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward. This Whipple building is named for that bishop, and his granddaughter has written saying he would not
this
be
is
okay.
not how I want my name being used.
So it's really like to me, it's injury upon injury upon injury.
Yeah.
That this is how this building is used for this man who.
Yeah. It's complicated.
It is complicated.
We have complicated histories. We humans do, don't we? And it's okay to name that and okay to hold on to that. And I appreciated the Huguenot story today. I've heard that story before, but just to be able to name that story and the way a community gathers together and resists. I mean, resistance really has been the name of what's been going on, and we're resisting in different ways. So sometimes people get upset and say, well, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing the thing. We're all doing it differently. Having that conversation with your neighbor is resisting. Providing food is resisting. Going to a protest, a march, a prayer vigil, it's resisting. But we're doing it in different ways, but we're finding it.
And you don't have to do it all. One thing you said in one of your communications that I have then said is, it's a relay, not a marathon. So I have said to some of you individually, I'm saying to all of you, you need to tap out. It's okay. If you've run your leg and you can't run another leg, you take all the time you need. There's going to be another opportunity.
Yep.
So you just rest up. Don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
I see you doing the things. I see these families. They're working full time. They've got little kids. They're running all kinds of things, groceries. You're going to get tired. And so it's okay. It's okay.
I think it's important to be able to look at each other and see one another in that tiredness right now. I look at the pastors of our synod. I look at you, right?
Yeah.
We're often very tired right now, and this is.
I'm doing pretty well right now. I had a big, strong cup of coffee at noon, which I don't usually do.
It's the coffee that's doing it.
And I came into the office, and it was fun.
Oh, I love it. I was thinking about your congregation, though. You were part of the first round of Faith Practices, neighboring practices.
We were.
Yeah.
How did you pull that out? Because that's going back.
I asked Nick Tangen about it today from our Synod office, and I said, did Advent do that? He's like, yeah, they did. But what I know of Faith Practices, neighboring practices, anybody on the team that's in here right now? Yep. So you went out and you got to know your neighborhood, right? And it's always to look at the assets of your neighborhood, to look at the strengths of your neighborhood, to see the things that are going on in the neighborhood that sometimes when you're driving to church or walking to church, you might not realize all those things that are already going on. And then to figure out, how does the church partner with that? How do we come alongside? And I think that's what I hear you saying you're doing already, right? You're coming alongside schools, you're coming alongside neighbors, you're finding that way to do it.
The local food bank that was, this congregation was on the first 10 or so congregations that started at 50 years ago. They've asked, can we be a distribution center? Of course. We kind of already were, because we were already driving groceries up. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. Pretty much if you ask right now, the answer is yes, or I'll try to get to yes. Yeah.
I like that too. That's kind of how I operate also. Yeah.
What else do you want us to know about what we're doing?
I made some notes. Let me just see. One thing, this is not exactly about what we're doing right now, but just generally, sometimes people have a complicated relationship with the church. Somebody says, the church hurt me, or a pastor says, the church hurt me back 50 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, for whatever reason. One of the things I've noticed in my role is that I can be in relationship with people, and I feel like I'm working on healing with people. As much as possible, I'm looking for healing. So what are the ways that we can acknowledge what happened in the past and we can seek healing? And it feels like that's one of the quieter parts of my role, but it's a part of my role as well. I was also thinking about courage, that we as humans, we as congregations, need to know that we've got other people with us, that somebody else has our back, that we're not alone. Even if we're doing it our own way, we're not alone. And I'm finding a lot of courage. I was talking to one of our pastors yesterday and saying, well, should we just gather a bunch of information and write that thing in paper, in words? Or should we do like a conversation or a session where we're people together? And she's like, could we just be people together? I find courage in being with other humans. I need to be with other people. And it's the same thing. You go to a Bible study, you go to a prayer group. I want to be with other humans. And I think that courage is really something that we all need right now, is that way to be together and that way to be courageous. The church gives us that way. The church is that opportunity.
And even to have fun together, because joy is still one of the things we have. And
so important.
Like that dinner and game night that we're doing, that's, it's just, come have fun on a Friday night, and at the same time, we'll support one of our neighbors.
And that joy is so important. If we lose our joy, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I believe, we can go through some pretty hard times, but the Holy Spirit gives us that ounce of joy, and we hold on to that too.
Yeah.
That's the light and the spark and the salt that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I had a couple other notes to myself. I don't know, how's our time doing here?
Well, I don't know. I could talk to you all night, but the kids have school, so let's go about 5 minutes.
Kids have school.
Meanwhile, Ms. Sophie, if you have questions, write them down. She's going to do her best, write them to her. She wants to be able to read them. So if you've got a question while you're talking, she'll take it down, and we'll get to as many as we can. We'll go for about 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes, because you've got kids at home, too.
I do have kids at home, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you had asked, one of the questions you said, what were one or two takeaways that you wish our congregation walks out tonight knowing? Can I just give you my takeaways now? One of them is, you are the Synod. You are Minneapolis Area Synod. Yes, you're Advent Lutheran Church, I know that. But you are part of Minneapolis Area Synod, and you are the Synod. Sometimes people think, the Synod office on Franklin Avenue in South Minneapolis, that's the Synod. I wouldn't say that. The Synod staff, that's the Synod. No, we've got a nice staff, but that's not the Synod. We all together are the Minneapolis Area Synod. So if the kids are trying to figure out how to spell Synod, it's S-Y-N-O-D, Synod, right? Church together. People
From
together.
S-Y-N, is it Latin or Greek? It's Greek.
It's probably both, actually, but together.
Which means together.
Yeah. So we are the Synod together. So I want you to, if you take anything tonight, is to know that we are the Synod together. And I just use the language of we're church together, because sometimes we need to understand what that means. The other is that you are having an impact on your local congregation, your local community. And I hear that in what I hear from you. I hear what I hear out and about. But that impact of what congregations do in the neighborhood, in community, matters. The synod also has an impact locally, and together we have even more power to be able to do those things. But I think that impact is important for us to realize when we might think, does it really matter? Are we really doing anything? Yeah, you are doing something. I see that. I notice that. I will also say, I didn't say this at the beginning, I usually do, but I'm bringing you greetings tonight. I said 137 worshiping communities, so the other 136, I bring you greetings from them. So greetings and prayers from the rest of the synod, because I get to do that. And I also bring you thanks. I bring you thanks from the synod for things like your leadership, your involvement in things like synod assembly, your leadership amongst the pastors of the synod, the ways your congregation is showing up. And I also bring thanks for what we call mission support. Mission support, if you had your annual meeting, probably in your budget somewhere, there was a line that said mission support or something like that, benevolence.
The treasurer's right back there. We were just talking today about filling out the form and getting it to you.
Thank you. So that mission support is money that your congregation probably approved in your budget. That's money that goes to Minneapolis Area Synod, and half of it stays within the synod to do the ministry of the synod, the work locally, and half of it goes to ELCA churchwide, and it supports ministry that happens nationally and globally. So your congregation specifically interacts with the whole church in that way, and it matters that you do that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Other things, as Ms. Sophie is.
Oh, let's just see it, Sophie. What do you have questions there?
Yeah, but my mic's over there.
Okay.
Okay.
None of them are cursive, so one of them's cursive.
None of them are are you the generation that can't read cursive?
Not well.
Why did you want to be bishop or a bishop?
Why did I want to be a bishop? Well, remember what I said at the beginning, that I didn't really know if I wanted to leave my congregation. But I think what I did was I heard from enough people who said, we think you are the person who should be our bishop. And that was kind of raised up. So want to is a strong way to say it. But I think that I do have some of the gifts for gathering people and connecting people and leaning into the relationships that we have as individuals, which is what parish pastors do as well, and then leaning into the relationships that we can have across congregations, and that's also part of it. So leaning into those relationships. And then our relationships to the whole church, the bigger church. So I'm in relationship to the other bishops, which then puts us all in relationship to the whole ELCA, which is, a number of million people, and it's important to be able to be
We're like
connected.
3 million.
A little bit shy
But
of that.
this is the biggest synod in the country, right?
It is. By geography, no. But by numbers of people, yes, by far. Yeah, we've got about 700 rostered leaders. That means 700 pastors and deacons. A little more than half of those folks are retired, and then a little less than half are actively serving, like you are, right?
Okay.
It's a lot of people, though. It's a lot of leaders, and it's a lot of baptized members.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next one. Can you speak on the clergy arrests during the protests?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Those clergy, I was not one of the people arrested, but the clergy is 99 or 100, right?
It was right around there.
Right around there. Pastors and deacons who were arrested, some of them Lutheran and some of them other denominations. And it was their way of saying, we're going to take a stand. This airport, our airport, and here in the Minneapolis area, right, is an airport into which our commerce goes. And this is an issue that is big enough that it needs to disrupt our status quo. It needs to disrupt our business as usual. And so they were trying to say, we need to slow that down and stop it and focus on this. And we also need to say that that airport is the place where all those detainees end up flying in and out of. And so for a while it was 3 flights a day. There were a lot of people moving in and out of the airport, and to say, these are our people. And in some of those cases, a number of those cases, those were citizens that were being taken in and out of that airport. And so it was to say that, and they really grounded it, from what I understood, they really grounded it in prayer and in very much a kind of rooted vigil. And we're going to take this stand and we're going to do this to say we're pushing back, we're resisting. You might not choose to be arrested. They chose to be arrested, but that was the why of it.
They chose to be arrested in air temperature that morning that was minus 22.
Very, very cold.
Many of them are young with young families. I know several of them. I'm sure you do.
My spouse was one of them, yeah.
Your spouse was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, God bless her. One of my favorite stories that came out of that was that the people who, it was largely the airport police, right? But
Yeah.
it was also the Bloomington police, but largely the airport police.
I'm not sure which force it was.
Anyway, one of my favorite stories that came out is that they said it was the only time that they have ever been asked if they could possibly recycle the zip ties.
I heard that part.
Which is just such a pastor thing.
Their ties,
Could we
or their,
please recycle these?
you know, they use zip ties instead of like handcuffs nowadays, but the plastic things that were on their wrists, and they said, now that you've cut them off, could you recycle those? It must have had an impact.
Don't lose your joy, right? You're being arrested. But don't.
I've heard from those pastors, though, that many of them said it was one of the most profoundly prayerful experiences of their life. And to be able, to kneel on cold ground at that temperature for that long was physically painful, but the prayer around them and the singing was really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
And it was and continues to be inspiring.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a powerful moment.
And has captured the imagination of the country. I've been hearing from people all over. I was actually in Washington, D.C., sort of saying, this is happening in Minnesota. We need to find ways to respond to this. And people want to hear from Minnesota, and they've known that story. And many of our stories, people are watching what we're doing here and how we're responding and trying to do that with humanity and dignity. And people are, it's having an effect nationally.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, well, internationally, too.
Internationally, yeah.
Ms. Sophie, what you got?
Yeah, back to one of your first points about healthy churches, healthy leaders. What does being healthy have to do with anything, and why is it so important?
Oh, this is
a good question.
Yeah.
So when I say healthy, I mean partly physically healthy, but I also mean spiritually healthy in my relationship to God and my relationship to the people around me and having good boundaries. So if I am super exhausted and I'm breaking boundaries, so maybe I'm married and I'm not being faithful to my spouse, or I'm not being faithful to my congregation in the ways that I interact. All of those things, they take our eye off of the things that are important. Our relationship to God, our relationship to the community that we're trying to nurture and care for. So whenever our boundaries are bad, and that's one of the ways that health happens, that takes us away from being able to do the ministry that we as congregations and as leaders want to be able to do. Does that make sense, whoever asked that question?
Yeah. If I think of it this way, if I can only be as good as I am, I don't know quite how to say it, but if I show up and it's coming out sideways.
Yeah.
And so I need to do everything I can to show up in a good way.
Yeah.
And we have stories of pastors who didn't maintain boundaries, who burned out, and the congregation was the worse for it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important.
Yeah, or we harm a member in maybe not a physically harmful way, but in an emotionally, or we just aren't being our best selves. And we're not always healthy with our spouses, with our families, right? We get into those cycles. All of us do. That's part of being human. But I want to call us back to as much health as we can find.
Yep.
So as I said in that email I sent today, if you need to go to your therapist, go to your therapist. Go to your spiritual director. Go to your physician. Like, do the things that will make you a healthier human being so that you can be healthier for your
And it's on
congregation.
us to know what those things are, what works, what do we need, so that we can make sure that we can continue to do the ministry.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, a couple questions about just being a bishop. How do you get the job of a bishop, and what do you do?
We spend days voting, and it is the most boring thing. And one of the bishop's election, not yours, but one of the bishop's election that I was handed, Michaela Tiffany was the other, so Michaela was all into it. She was one of our voting delegates. I got from another clergy person an intense dot to dot with like 500 numbers so that I could just kind of, so we vote, and then we wait for the results. And then we vote again. And we wait for the results. And after like the second vote at yours, it's just like, we just all want it to be Jen. But no, we had to do it again.
It's a
And
real
then we had to
election.
do it for 2 days.
So how do you become bishop? You're
Yeah.
elected to be a bishop. That's how the ELCA does it. And our synod is very similar. The rules are a little different, but everybody votes. That's how every synod does it.
And we do it every 6 years. And by the way, if you'd like to go to Synod Assembly and do this kind of,
Yeah.
you can come. We get so many voting delegates, and some people love it.
Yeah.
And you can come and watch me fidget.
So this year's Synod Assembly, that's our big gathering every year. Synod Assembly will be on Friday night, May 1st, and it'll be during the day on Saturday, May 2nd. On Saturday, May 2nd, there's a worship service in the morning. There's Bible study. There's the business of the church. There's some resolutions. We pass a budget. It's kind of like a congregational meeting, but a lot more, and more singing, and more getting to know people from other congregations.
More
and things.
food, a lot more candy.
More candy, more food,
Yeah.
more interactions, and a lot of stories. I mean, we really try to just tell a lot of stories of what's going on around here and what's going on around the church. There'll be videos, there'll be more. But if you want to go, you guys talk about it. I don't know
Yeah.
how you decide in this congregation, but
Yes,
talk about it.
we can talk about it.
Talk about it.
All right, you're at our church today. You're at other churches other days. Do you go to a different church every day?
I go to my office most days, and during the day I have lots of appointments and lots of meetings, and I go to other congregations some of those times for those meetings, but often people just come to the office. And most weeks I'm in 1 or 2 congregations. That's a common thing, like on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning. But usually I try once a month to not be at another church and just to go to my own church, and I like to worship at my own church as well. So I try to do that. But like, for instance, this past Sunday, I was at, where was I? Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd in Southwest Minneapolis, and I was installing a new pastor. I happened to preach, and then I also installed a new pastor. Laura Laughlin is their new lead pastor, and it was wonderful and beautiful, and it was just great. And then today I'm with you, and then this coming Sunday, I am at Amazing Grace, which is one of our newest congregations. It's actually still becoming a congregation. They've been gathering for about 10 years. They meet in Fridley. It's a Hmong congregation, so the Hmong community. And so I'm going to be with them, and I'm just going to bring greetings and worship, and we're going to have a potluck, and it'll be really nice to be with them. So.
And you came here because you sent an email, one of the emails that said that Bishop Jen would be willing to come to congregations. She wanted to visit some, and I thought, I'm planning this Lenten series.
Yeah.
Could we possibly get you?
It was great. And my hope is to be in every congregation, but 137 congregation, and how many months or
Right,
weeks of the year.
right.
So it takes time.
Yeah.
So this is my first chance to really come
Well,
and
and I
visit.
think it's the first time we've had bishops here. Bishop Ann was here for my installation,
Right.
for Pastor Peter's ordination, for Pastor Alexis's ordination.
Yep.
And then we've had, as you said, other synod representatives when we've been going through those pastoral transitions, but not in this capacity.
Not like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy this kind of
Yeah.
thing. I think this is fun.
It's much more fun.
And you may see also, Pastor John Holden, Pastor Jen Collins, Nick Tangen. These are some of the folks that are on our synod staff who come. So it's not always me who comes, but we represent in different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we got time for 1 or 2 more.
Well, we only have one more. So, to close out, what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job? It's visiting congregations. This I really enjoy, but I also really enjoy this thing we call the ministry site profile conversation. People write ministry site profiles as a congregation when you're preparing to call a new pastor. And so it's this big form that your call committee or a transition team writes. And then I come and I have a conversation with the congregation about it. And so imagine you're the congregation and I'm having the conversation. And I've read it all ahead of time. And then I just ask you some big questions about what you like about your congregation and what you think a new pastor would enjoy and what would be the challenges. And we end up just talking about the challenges of the congregation and what would be the right kind of a pastor or deacon to match. And they end up being really good conversations. They're pretty interesting. Everybody just talks and we pass the mic around, people talk. But I get to be a good listener and a good leader, but I also get to be a pastor in those settings where I can be kind of a pastor amongst the community that's gathered, and I really enjoy that. So I still use my pastor skills a lot, even in that kind of a setting, and I really enjoy those interactions.
Great. Could we end by praying for you and for your ministry?
We can.
Yeah, let's pray. Good and gracious God, I just thank you for Bishop Jen. I thank you for her willingness to serve you. I thank you for her willingness to just to help us draw closer to you, and for her connections that she's making throughout this synod, throughout the country, throughout the world. I pray that you would bless her, sustain her spouse, sustain her kids, just protect them, watch over them, and just pour that joy into her every single day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being salt and light, and thank you for the invitation to come tonight. Can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
They always tell me when I come visit congregations, you're supposed to take a picture, Jen.
Oh.
And I always forget. So I didn't forget just now.
You didn't.
Can we
Good
do
for
it?
you. Let's do it.
Okay.
Come on up here.
How should we do it?
Let's do it right around here. We'll kind of just like we would for an
Like get the whole congregation up
yeah,
here?
everybody come.
Okay.
Let's do it just like we would for an ordination. We'd get as many people up here as we possibly could.
Come on up. You'll be on the website, you guys, or you'll be on the Facebook. Who can take the picture, do you think?
We will find out somebody who can take the picture.
Okay.
Who does not want to be in the picture and would like to take the picture? We got somebody. I heard somebody say I will. Thanks. You come on up.
You said you'd take the picture? Okay. So do all the things, just and take a bunch and we'll take the best one. Is that fair?
Should I take some of myself?
I don't care. You want to put that on the website too? First. I'm going to come by you guys. Is that okay? I don't want to block you though.
No, you're fine.
You're tall enough.
You're going to be in the... I can change places with
Huh?
you. Do you want to just move over?
No, I don't want you to be blocked either.
I think you're close enough.